Hello and welcome to ARN. This is Paul Bromwell, and I'm joined, as always, by the Hall of Famer, the founder of the Four Horsemen, the man that developed and came up with that spine buster, spine of the pine. He's my tag team partner, and I'm proud to call him a friend, Arn Anderson. Arn, how are you this week, my friend?
Very good. Like that shirt? That's new, right?
It is. It is. We updated some color. We made it a nice white font. We got the maroon version, maroon like the Andersons, buddy,
Right.
and it's on our onetruesport.com.
Good call. Before we get started, I just want to take care of something. You know that we make this show for the fans, fan friendly. It's supposed to be an enjoyable experience, and I was reading through some comments a couple weeks ago, and just wanted to apologize to everybody out there. I know that my breathing is very irritating and aggravating, and same thing for here at the house. Everybody here, Dad, breathe through your nose. Since COVID, I'm one of the long-term, I think it's called long-term COVID sufferers, and breathing is one of those things that has not came back normally. I know it's aggravating for the people having to listen out there, and I just wanted to apologize for that. I'm doing my best. I will continue to do my best. So I just want to let you guys know I'm aware of it, and it is an issue. Do my best to correct it best I can.
Arn, when you mentioned, I had no idea until about 30 seconds before we hit record that you were going to address that, because honestly, Arn, I had not seen it or read any of that.
A couple of weeks ago, maybe a week and a half ago, I don't even know what site or what it was. It was reactions to what we were talking about for the show, I guess.
All right. Well, very nice of you to even address it and bring it up. And I love that we already have fans in the chat saying they had no clue and no idea and no reason to apologize. And it's not even noticed. But what I will tell you, Arn, is that you and I are long overdue for me to come down and visit you at some point in Charlotte. And I'm going to sit down and I'm going to play with your little board and have you record a little bit, and we'll do a little bit of testing and see if we can't get it a little bit more dialed in too, so that it's not. Well, we're going to do everything we can to help you out, buddy, because I hate to hear that, hate to see that. I'm so focused on the amazing storytelling that you share, and just like you said, sitting in your virtual living room every other week that we get the opportunity to do so. It is way beyond what I'm even hearing or seeing. So,
if it's just a handful of people, that's too many.
There you go. Okay.
So I'm aware of it. I'll try to correct it. I don't know if it's possible to be corrected, but I will, like I said, I will do my best and make this a pleasant listening, whatever.
Listen, in the meantime, I love recording with Darth Anderson. Okay, I'm all in on Darth Anderson, and we'll do our best. And very kind of you to open with those comments for those that are bothered by it. But let's transition. Very nice of you to say that. Let's talk a little bit about what you've been up to. We love to do that at the top of every show. We're here to talk about March 1995, and we're going to get into it. The Uncut, the Unsanctioned, the Uncensored, of everything that happened with Uncensored 95. But before we get there, you've been busy, my friend. And it all started June 30th in your backyard of Winston-Salem, North Kakalaki, another AML event, Brock and CW doing their thing, when all of a sudden the music hit. And Dax, one of those, a longtime friend of yours, showed up in North Carolina and made his way to the ring. What happened? And I saw you start climbing the stairs and entering the ring.
Well, I was a little bit in shock. I didn't know he was there. And, he and I have had a while back, we had a little bit of a dust up, but, I thought we were cool after that. And I think it wasn't so much about me or Brock or CW. That's where his roots were. And he wanted to make a statement and assist the show, which he certainly did that. What a reaction for that guy.
Yeah.
I just, I'm not real happy that he decided to get involved during our business. So at some point we're going to have to address that, I think. Dax?
You know what? And I think it all started because they were saying they're the best tag team out of North Carolina. And I think that's what kind of started the whole issue.
Well, I didn't get pissed when he said they were the greatest tag team of all time. When it's clear that's Tully and I. Any generation you want, if you took two young, healthy, in their prime, Anderson and Blanchard, we're just the best there ever was. And that's not infringing on Brett's stuff either. Body of work.
So if it's Anderson and Tully versus FTR, all things equal, it's Anderson and Tully all day long is what you're saying.
Be a hell of a fight. Be very close. Be nip and tuck. They would not be able to climb that hill because, quite frankly, we wouldn't allow it.
I love this. This is so good. So it's great. Listen, I saw the clip online. I saw AML posting it and some fan reaction to it. And anytime I see you and Dax together, it's like Arn Anderson. And to me, the modern day version of Arn Anderson. I'm talking about work style, promo, some of the promos type skills there. And just kind of goosebumps to see you guys together again in the ring. And you start to approach that ring and start to take those steps and him turn and stare at you. It's all the feels, man.
Yeah, I don't know what I was thinking. I got kind of caught up in that. And I saw the spotlight going away from my team, which is not what I had in mind. I think I just kind of did that without thinking. But once it got plowed, I feel the need to stay in there. So I got out. No contact. But it'll work itself out. If nothing else, somewhere in some town, AML is fantastic. And we may just see that match. Who knows?
Wouldn't
that be something?
That would definitely be buzzworthy and be a lot of fun. And we would have a lot of fun talking about it here. Speaking of talking about it, again, before we logged on, you're like, Paul, I want to talk about the Springfield Horseshoes event, July 8th. So it was 4 Horseshoes night with you. That was where we were talking about the 2-hour all-you-can-eat meet Arn Anderson. Arn, tell us about it. How did that all shake out?
Well, let me just first say Jamie and his wife, who's the GM, are really class act. It was my first time meeting him. He, being Jamie, is a big fan. We had a really nice conversation, and to have me come in down there was, it was a little bit out of my wheelhouse. That's the first time I went to a baseball game and made an appearance, and they were so gracious, and nice and classy all the way around, made me feel at home. So did their staff, from the guys that picked me up in St. Louis. I had to fly into St. Louis. Not a lot of flights into Springfield, Illinois. You got to connect and all that through Chicago, and you know what kind of mess that can be. So somebody had to drive 100 miles each way to pick me up. I'm grateful of that. That'd be David. And then once I got there, everybody was just great. And the fans that came down, then we had a nice 2-hour chat, just visited, watched some baseball. Guys had some hot dogs and hamburgers, and it was just a good time was had by all. So I just want to say thank you for the hospitality. It was a good time, and that was last night.
I was going to say, as we sit here, that was yesterday. So you just get back today then?
Yep, got back landed about 12:30.
And here he is for everybody here. Arn already in the chair, ready to record. Look at you, man. What a guy! What a guy! Hey, let's talk about your next man. I don't know if it's your next flight out. I'm guessing that it is. Is it July 18th through 20th, Cedar Rapids, as we head out to Waterloo, right?
Yes, sir.
Hall of Fame, buddy. You're going into another Hall of Fame. Aaron, Brock, and I'd let you know I'll be out there. And Marcus, D'Angelo, we're all heading out. Team Anderson. Cannot wait to be there for that big event. Brock's going to wrestle, but more importantly, he's going to induct you into the Dan Gable Hall of Fame. cannot wait. And we're going to, by the way, do some behind the scenes filming for that. One True Sport members, if you're a member, you're going to get special behind the scenes video and interviewing from that. So join up now. There's the plug. But Arn, talk about how fun that weekend is going to be.
Well, let's first address just how preposterous it is. Who would have thought when I was a little chubby kid running around Rome, Georgia, with no lineage, no genetics that I know of, no heredity, nothing that would lead you to the fact that I was going to be I don't even want to say, let me just say a successful athlete. I don't want to overblow it. And to be in the same sentence as Dan Gable, do you realize how crazy that is?
It's amazing, man.
To be even mentioned that you're part of something that he was part of, when he's, for anybody that wrestles professionally or amateur, that name, everybody on earth, he is the Hulk Hogan of amateur wrestling, I would say. What a beast. And to be, nominated to be part of this, George Tragos Hall of Fame, man, it's like, wow. I'm still have a hard time digesting it, to be honest with you.
And you get to go in with guys like Tony Schiavone, Dr. Tom Pritchard. I mean, these are all three of you, just legends in the business. Dr. Tom, not only for a worker, but then also training and what he's been able to accomplish in the business. Tony Schiavone, I mean, we like to give him a hard time, you especially do over the years, but come on, he's still doing it. The voice of AEW in so many ways, and doing things behind the scenes most of us couldn't even grasp that he helps out with. But just he was there day one, Jim Crockett Promotions. And it's just so cool to see all of you guys going in. I can't wait to be a part of it.
Well, you are a part of it, my friend. Everywhere I go, everybody tells me most everybody, that they like the podcast, and they really think you're doing a great job, Paul. And so let me take this opportunity to thank you. One of the many times that I will be thanking you, hopefully going forward through the years. But you become a good friend, and I sure appreciate it. What I read about my award is that someone that not necessarily inside the ring, but has helped preserve the business and help by, helping the people that need to, and contributing in that way, and helping groom talent and all those. I think that's what that award is it not?
Yes, that's correct. Yeah.
So, because I was an agent / producer longer than my career at that was longer than I had wrestling. It was 15-year wrestling career, and I'm still going now. So whatever the difference is, but if I can help a young person have the light go off for them, and in some way I helped that happen, and that something that they did worked for them, and they come back through the curtain smiling and went, that worked. That's what I do, I guess.
Yeah. Hey, buddy, it is what you do. And I think for us, we're such fans of what you did in the ring that sometimes it's kind of not forgotten about, but overlooked, what you did behind the scenes for guys like John Cena and so many others. I guess you saw the news next year, his go away year, his retirement year. He's going to do a bunch of appearances, and 2025 is going to be the farewell tour of John Cena.
Well, he'll get that elusive, 17th world title.
Do you think that's going to happen for him? They'll crown him at least. Yeah.
I don't think you can't mess with that.
Okay.
They'll build it. That's one thing they know how to do, is build stories and suspense. And John, he paid his dues, and he did a great job carrying the company, not by himself, but a portion of it on his shoulders. So, when it's his time to hang it up, that should be his call, and hopefully he will walk out and not limp out, and call it a day.
Yeah, he, in the presser, I got to see a little bit of it, the post-show press conference. That's exactly what he said he wanted to do, was to be able to pick his time and walk out on his terms and not have to be forced. So but I know you had a tremendous part in his career. So as we're talking about Hall of Fames and things like that, I think it was the right time to talk about this. Guys, I saw in the chat quickly as I scanned through, yes, there is going to be meet and greet opportunity in Waterloo, an autograph signing time. I believe that's on Saturday before the wrestling event. So it's going to be a great time. We'll move along for sake of time, but then it's July 25th through 28th, huge meet and greet. And Galaxy Con, you're loving these cons now, especially with the comic book in Raleigh, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and it's right down the road from you, buddy.
You're not kidding. And I've done that one last year, and boy, it's huge. It really is. And for the folks out in Waterloo as well as Raleigh, that have had issues and didn't know how to order the book and stuff, and the new figures from Bendy's, right?
Yes, that's right.
Yep, I will have those, which I have not had previously up until about 6 weeks ago. So for those of you that couldn't figure out how to order them, I'm going to bring a bunch of that stuff.
Oh, perfect.
And those good looking hats, if you're a hat person, I'm going to bring some of those. Just want to make sure we got them right there on hand. It seems like a perfect day to be a Horseman fan. So,
and it absolutely is. I'm going to mention a little bit about merch after this next appearance, because finally we're going to round out the month here. AML Wrestling, July 28th. ARN, and a big time town for you, Greensboro, North Carolina. That's got to be a big time appearance in Greensboro.
Brother, you just got to know it's like Madison Square Garden and Chicago. Greensboro fits in that group. Mm-hmm. It's at that level, and it's not lost on Brock or I or CW that wrestling, as a unit, the Andersons in Greensboro, it's a super, super big deal for us. And just the city of Greensboro, the building, it really is one of those things that it doesn't matter. It's Greensboro, and the Greensboro fans are going to be out. I'm sure it's a big day for us, and we're going to leave Raleigh and plenty of time to get down there early, and we'll see everybody in Greensboro.
Awesome. Well, listen, before we transition into March 1995, we've mentioned this a few times. I saw a few people comment on the Arn Anderson, the white print version on the maroon. It is available at onetruesport.com, which you can grab one now. But also, Arn, your Hall of Fame shirt, which, by the way, I saw JD Hoop in this chat earlier. He designed for you exclusively now. You and Brock will be sporting the T-shirt. I will be sporting the T-shirt at the Hall of Fame. We're going to have it so that you guys, if you come there and wait to get them there, we're going to send you to onetruesport.com. So I advise you, that's the one place to grab that shirt. Again, JD Hoop, who's known to, by the way, design Cody's gear and so many other talented wrestlers now that are in the business, was the one who designed your special Hall of Fame shirt. Said it was an honor for him. He helped me with doing the white lettering for this and some other things. So you couldn't ask for anybody better to be helping us work on the merch. First of all, I wanted to say that. And secondly, don't wait. Go over now while you're listening. Open up a secondary browser and go over and grab you some of that merch and get that Hall of Fame T-shirt for Arn. And it's great because at the very bottom of it, it has your entire wrestling experience with every company. He put so much detail into that shirt that you worked for from the years that you were with them all the way through until you're retired. So it's just such a fantastic design. And I wanted to mention that here, before we moved on.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And I've seen the prototype. It looks good. It's nice.
Oh, so good.
It's something guys would wear and be proud to wear it.
He did a nice job with that. And I will also put over the other part of you. You mentioned your guy, Tully Blanchard, who we had on as well. Tully has a new shirt. I didn't quit. And Tully literally worked hand in hand texting. Add an exclamation mark after I didn't quit. You got it, Tully. JD all over it. And it's Greensboro from that 85 match with Magnum. And it's available now on the store. But there's something that you can't pull out. I don't know that we even put out in the description. The font of I didn't quit is the exact same font that was on the back of Tully's robe that night in the arena. JD literally captured the font and hand drew it out so that it would mirror the same font on Tully's robe that night in 1985. That's the level of detail we're trying to capture with some of the merch over there. That shirt is there. Tully liked it. He wanted it in 2 colors and one for his girlfriend. So support Tully as well, the other half of the Horsemen, the Brainbusters, and grab you one of those. But so proud of what we're doing over there, and I would love for you guys to help support guys like ARN and Tully and grab some of that merchandise. We're really putting a lot of effort into it. And again, to that detail of, can we match up the font of what's on the robe so that it looks pure? So it's really cool. And I wanted to mention that as well. ARN, with that, you ready to dig in to March 1995?
Thanks, JD.
Yeah,
that's nostalgia, man.
It is so cool, and you're not going to find that anywhere else. Guys, I'm going to tell you, we're going to make this a little bit more interactive than normally when we cover a month show. I heard some feedback from some of you the last time, Darren, and what I'll tell you is, use the super chat function. We're talking about how do we help contribute and give back to Arn Anderson. That AEW money's gone, and we want to really support him in new and different ways. And you can do that using super chat, and that puts it into a little bit of a higher level queue for me, so that I can see it, because I have a lot of notes I'm going to work through. You're welcome, JD. And so if you could do that for us, that'll be great. But I'm going to ask you some questions and ARN questions as we go through this. And I want to hear your opinions on some of this material as we go through this. So with that, we're going to jump in. And ARN, I'm going to kick it off by kind of talking about an old buddy of yours. And it's the Nature Boy, Ric Flair, because we've talked about this as we've gone throughout your career, the reinstatement of Ric Flair. And through the end of 94 and into 95, he was retired by Hulk Hogan at the end of 94 at Halloween Havoc inside the cage. But that original plan, as we've discussed, was we're going to keep him off TV for at least a year. Well, we already know, because obviously here we sit today, that didn't happen. That went the way of the dodo bird. He was at the February pay-per-view and instrumental in the finish between Hulk and Vader at Super Brawl. So we have that. And by the time the main event rolled around, business felt like it was picking up here with WCW. They created a genuine big fight feel at Super Brawl because you have Vader and Hogan, 2 big guys. And the one problem, though, was who's going to lose this match? As it always, and I hate to say it, seemed to be when you have someone against Hogan in these days. He had creative control, and it would manifest itself at Uncensored, which we're going to talk about today. But Flair ends up attacking Hogan, forcing the DQ. We talked about that already. But we're leading up now to Uncensored 95, and they've been teasing Flair's return through various segments and promos. The anticipation with the fans for his comeback is really, there's some excitement around it. But I want to talk to you about something here. What did you think, Arn, of the whole retirement angle and retirement angles in general? And Arn, as you think about that, just about retirement angles in general, I want to ask the chat, and I want you guys to start thinking about it now. What's the best retirement angle that you've ever seen? And what's the worst retirement? And some of the best ones, if you use Super Chat, it's going to be easy for me to see. But I want to know some of the best and the worst retirement angles. And while you guys are filling up my chat with that, Arn, I got to ask you, what do you think about retirement angles in wrestling and if it works?
Do they ever stick? What percentage actually are really a retirement? Do we have it? Are there any numbers to at all? So if you know going in that it's not going to happen, in the back of your mind, if you're doubting it, boy, that really takes the edge off of it, doesn't it?
Oh yeah.
It really, really does. And so if you're going to retire. That's it. And it's one thing I knew they weren't going to leave Ric Flair off for a year. How can you pay a guy that kind of money? Number one. Oh, I guess that's the easy part is to come up with the cash if you're Turner. But, to leave him off a year, we didn't have enough things that were hot to draw to replace Ric Flair. It's tough order at that time, big time tough order.
And at this time, buddy, guess what? He is the head booker. So, he's in the booking room, booking this. Obviously, antsy, wants to get back in the game, is part of the committee that's putting together, how this is all going to work. He tried to play like, as he was attending Super Brawl, he was middle of the road. And obviously we saw he went heel at the end of Super Brawl. But the whole retirement bit. So I'm seeing some things in the chat. Mark Henry was a fun kind of retirement angle. Remember when he came out with the big old, peach colored suit coat and had everybody going? He's literally in tears. And then the old swerve.
Right.
And then I see someone said, and then obviously wasn't an angle, Bobby, but the most genuine retirement was when you yourself came out and had to share your news of your physical limitation because of what had happened to you. That was one of the most genuine retirements of all time.
Well, because it was legitimate.
It was real.
I knew, my doctor already told me I would never clear you to wrestle again. Then I had the incident in the gym where the guy came up, smacked me on the back. I dropped the water bottle and like an electric shock went through me, which if I didn't believe my doctor, I did then. I knew the first thing went in my mind was if that had that little bitty smack on the back, had that kind of impact on me, how am I going to get bounced around by these beasts? And it just said, you're done. There's a little voice in my head said, hey, you're done. And so it was legitimate. It was, that all happened that day. And this was a spontaneous thing. When I got to TV, I explained to Eric what had happened and, conversation I had with my doctor. And I thought I could rehab, but it's not going to happen. I said, could I have some time just to go out and retire tonight?
No. It's as we go through the chat and I'm reading comments as you're sharing that, Arn, a lot of people said, one of the best retirements, but unfortunately it never stuck, was how the WWE put together Flair's and Shawn Michaels at WrestleMania and had family front row. He goes down to the super kick. But then Flair, much like, there was a lot of retirements with Terry Funk, it kind of turned into the Kiss reunion tour, where when you thought it was their final reunion tour, then it was another final reunion tour and then another final reunion tour. But it had at that point in time, everything that was built around it, from Monday Night Raw to the Hall of Fame to, the payoff at WrestleMania, could have been one of the best retirements at that time that you could have experienced. But
well, it's up to every athlete to make the call when they're going to retire. And all of us would like to retire under our own terms. I would say 100% of athletes would, if you had a wish, how you want to go out. Well, I'd like to go out under my terms. Sadly, very, very few get to do that. There's some outside stimulus that makes you retire.
And it's hard, though. I think as fans, we're on the sidelines. We've never experienced the pop. We've never experienced what you've experienced day after day, year after year on the road. The fan reaction, the attention, the love, everything that comes with it, that rock star feel that you get. And for some guys, I'm sure it probably wears them down over time, where they're like, okay, it's time for me to I want to be a little bit more introverted now and time for my space. But there's also got to be that feeling of just knowing when you can come back in and have that kind of impact and hear that crowd noise. There's an addiction to it.
So it is the single reason you can go out 336 days a year and wrestle your ass off. That feeling of coming through the curtain, taking the audience on a ride, and everything happening just like you pictured it hours earlier. And then you come back through the curtain and you get that reaction that you knew you would. That's what brings you back. It's not the money. It's not the glory. It's not getting a you know, a great table at a restaurant or somebody going woo at you.
Yeah.
And I can't figure that out why they're wooing me. I've still never figured that out. That's the other guy. I guess so.
Yeah.
So, you know, that's what brings you back. That's, you know, if you really love the business, that's the thing that keeps you going.
I'm sure. D-Tune says Arn ended while he was on top, and there's nothing wrong with that. I'd rather have a healthy Arn than no Arn. And that's well said.
Appreciate that.
Yeah.
And that was the conclusion that I had. And you never are whole again. You know, I got this paralysis in the hand to this day, but you know what? Of the injured wrestlers in the past that I've seen that, you know, had hip replacements and knee replacements and all those things, this was a small price to pay for the joy that I got out of 15 years of performing for you guys.
No, that's great perspective, Arn. You always have a good perspective of just looking at it, right? It could always be worse. And you know, guys, unfortunately, that it was worse for, whether it was mentally and the toll that it took on them, but also really physically as well. So let's transition. Let's talk a little bit. Well, Reggie the Tree just jumped in and he says, hey guys, and you know what? We'll come back to that because we're going to continue to, Reggie, we'll get to you next, but this is we'll continue with the story here in 1995. And it's Uncensored. This is the event we wanted to talk about. March 19th, 1995, Tupelo, Mississippi. Now, Arn, this became a staple for the remainder of WCW's existence, Tupelo. They were there for Uncensored in 96, Spring Stampede in 97. Do you have any memories of working in Tupelo or what the draw was with Tupelo at all?
Well, were the buildings full?
So for this event, it was 5,782 in attendance. So just shy of 6,000, almost 5,000 paid though. So.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I think the thinking is it's a secondary town, but a great wrestling town. And you get a lot of the bleed off from Memphis, which is just up the road.
Okay.
So wrestling fan, I mean, I don't know what, you know, the bean counters, what the philosophy was, but you know, that would be a smart because Memphis is one of those wrestling towns over the years. It ranks up there in the top 5. So if you can get those fans to come down, pretty sure you're going to have a pretty good house.
Yeah, no doubt about it. It's a hotbed, another hotbed for wrestling, for Southern wrestling, for sure.
And at that time, we were still Southern wrestling.
Yeah. Bag Jones, by the way, I'll throw yours up here because we were just talking about retirement. He said HBK had the perfect retirement and blew it. So a lot of opinions on the retirement, if you think about it, because remember he came back and he wrestled overseas in Saudi Arabia with
tag match.
Yes.
Well, so you know he held out longer than most.
He did. That's a good point.
You know, and who knows what pressure he was getting, you know, from the top for that match.
And over there, a lot of coin for sure, too.
Oh, yes. I'm sure he didn't do it for free.
Oh, yeah. Usually you hear millions in the payouts over there.
Yeah. Who's going to judge that? You know, it's not up to us. That's setting up generational wealth for your family, your children.
It really is. You have to think in terms of that, too. So. Let's jump down. Let's talk about some of the matches, okay, for this Uncensored pay-per-view, because this is probably the one we'll spend the most time on, Arn, and it's one that really kind of set an individual, Dustin Rhodes, who, by the way, if you're a One True Sport member, you got to have, as a traveling champion, an exclusive experience with him last month. But Dustin Rhodes takes on Blacktop Bully in a King of the Road match, and it was controversial. It was unique. This is March 19th, 1995, and I'm going to read you an overview of the match, Arn, just to level set for all of us here.
From who's the author of this overview?
So this is just the research guy helped build this out for us.
Okay.
So he kind of built this out for us. So I'm gonna share his notes with us. The King of the Road match was essentially a brawl held inside the back of a moving 18-wheeler truck. It was an attempt by WCW to create an innovative and visually striking match type. It failed. Participants. It featured the natural Dustin Rhodes, the blacktop bully, portrayed by your longtime friend, Barry Darsow. They fought inside the truck as it was driving around the arena, Arn. And again, while it's driving around, the match became controversial due to several factors. Here we go. First, the blood. Both guys bladed during the match, and that is completely against WCW's policy at the time because of standards and practices with TV. So that's the first major no-no. There were reportedly issues with production, okay, including difficulties filming inside a moving truck. You can imagine how crazy that had to be.
Oh, it'd be hard to keep your footing, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Every time they change gears, somebody goes tumbling, I would think.
It was a mess. So there were reportedly you had trailing vehicles that were trying to keep up. The sun was setting. There was a helicopter flying around, and blood, because they were bleeding, made much of the footage unusable. They had to go to a wide shot for so much of the match. So following the match, both Dustin and Barry were they were fired by WCW. Rhodes, in particular, faced repercussions for violating WCW's no blood policy and for the controversial nature of the match itself. This is from the Observer. WCW on Thursday fired Dustin Rhodes, a.k.a. Dustin Runnels, and blacktop bully Barry Darsow, and road agent and the agent, Mike Graham, over the King of the Road match, which was broadcast as part of WCW's Uncensored pay-per-view show for the use of blood during the match, which is against company policy. Graham, who was the supervisor of the match, not only told the two wrestlers to juice, which is supposedly strictly forbidden under policy, but brought the blades with him for the guys to use. Rhodes, 25, and Bully at the time, 35, proceeded to do a 20-minute match, both juicing heavily, and the few who actually were there during the filming claimed it was an excellent match. The match had to be edited down to 13 minutes. Man, I wonder if they have some behind-the-scenes footage where we can get to all 25 minutes. That would be cool. Blood was visible at times. It was de-emphasized in the editing and never mentioned in the commentary. The nature of the editing and poor shooting of the match turned the match into a total travesty, according to Meltzer, as it aired on the pay-per-view. Rhodes and Bully were both fired because supposedly they should have known, despite the request or order from their superior, Mike Graham, that doing so was against policy. And it says that Rhodes' size in many ways fits the bill as to what the company is looking for. But now here he is. He's let go. Arn, what do you think about this? I mean, is this one of those one and done match stipulations? Because listen, these guys lose their job over it.
I find it difficult. Oh, there went
the ice cream man driving by.
We got an ice cream man. That's the first time this summer.
I heard the music in the background.
Man, I wonder if he's coming back. I love the ice cream man.
We're talking about blood and guts, and here comes Mr. Happy, the ice cream man, around the neighborhood.
And the heat is, he just kept going. He didn't slow down. Oh, well, we'll see.
Or if he stopped, what would be your first choice off that truck?
Oh, gosh.
Darren Staley thinks you want a Nutty Buddy.
I like fudgesicles.
Oh, my God. Okay. Before we get too far down the road, should they have ever, is this a one and done stipulation match?
Well, I find it difficult to believe, now I had a match on this show, right?
You did. We're going to get there.
Yeah. So that would have had my attention to all the things around me. And I would have found it hard to believe that those guys would have gotten color without approval. And Mike Graham, when he passed that down, did they think that he had the okay and the okay was getting passed down to them?
See, now that's an interesting question to ask. If Mike Graham, which, God rest his soul, would have led them to believe, hey, we're going to do this and it's okay.
Then
and they're in their mind thinking it's all good.
Well, then you can't hold them responsible if that was the case. And I think that was an issue in those days. So anybody, I would think, would have asked. Barry was savvy. He's not a rookie. I mean, he would have known, okay, This and you know what? For what it's worth, I like the concept. I like because it was completely different from anything.
Okay.
There's never been anything repeated like that. It was cool, and if we got to see it in its entirety, it might have a different feel to it for those detractors. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But that took 2 careers or 3 careers and sent them off in different directions. That brings up that what if thing, right?
Yeah.
I love what ifs.
Yeah. And before we go to the what if, because we're headed there next, if everybody will stop, we got people that want a chip witch. Allison wants a chip witch. We got people that want a Hershey with almonds ice cream bar, Yambag Jones. This is hilarious. We have totally turned them on the ice cream man.
Well,
so,
let me put a pause in there. I wish it would have been, something I don't see anymore is the snowball guy.
we are off the rails now.
Snowball.
You want a snow cone?
Snow cone, yes, with all the different flavors. Rainbow. That's what it's called.
Drumsticks. Guys want drumsticks. This is literally like sitting around your living room talking. If this is the real deal
yeah,
here,
I mean, what the hell? That's positive parts of life.
And Byron Cutler apparently likes saying your name repeatedly in the chat. I've just learned that. So he's a big fan of just typing 3 letters, ARN. So that's a lot of fun. Guys in the chat.
Hey, before we move on, let me just go on the record and say Ben and Jerry's Cherry Garcia. That's the ticket. Top shelf.
I think we've lost Arn. Arn is so dialed in on ice
cream. I've been gone. I've been lost. I've been wandering around the wilderness for years. The hell.
He's over dreaming about Haagen-Dazs and Ben and Jerry's. Oh, yeah. Guys, what do you think in the chat? I want to hear, what do you think of this trailer, this blacktop match here, this crazy match that we got? Would you like to see another King of the Road match? Or are you out on this King of the Road match, having seen what you've seen? And now they're all talking about Ben and Jerry's. I've lost the chat now too. And
they're so disloyal, aren't they?
Research guy, I did not see this coming, buddy.
Just an ice cream truck going by has completely changed the whole mode.
All right, here comes the what if. I give up. What if? So Dustin Rhodes is fired here for blading, for violence and blood use, only to show up in August of that year as Goldust. How did you like that?
That was good.
Would you like that?
Or it was disturbing, one or the other. I'll decide, let you know.
If he never leaves, if he's never fired, what happens to Dustin Rhodes in WCW? Because you know how it turns out with NWO and all this, but Dustin's a big-time player here. What happens with Dustin Rhodes if he stays?
I think his career would have went on the same upward trajectory because he was a young guy, very talented. His lineage, all the positives would have continued on. I don't think he would have crashed and burned in any way.
Yeah, no, I don't think so either. But you think about it, not fired from this match. It's a whole what. Hey guys, what do you think? What becomes of Dustin Rhodes? And don't say he becomes the ice cream man in WCW. What happens to Dustin Rhodes if he doesn't get fired? Where do you see him fitting in the grand scheme of things in a Hulk Hogan, Kevin Nash, Scott Hall world? Where do you see Dustin Rhodes? So I want to hear I want to see some chat stuff. We move along while I wait to see your responses. So there we go. But man, I tell you what, he embraced that character, didn't he? Goldust, and really made it a thing and made a stellar career out of it.
Well, that era when all those weird things were acceptable, they were doing this was Attitude Era. Right?
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, they were R-rated on a lot of stuff.
Oh,
and for him being Dustin Rhodes, the cowboy, is about what he is. He's your normal blue jean wearing, cowboy boot, truck driving cowboy. That's who he is. For him to make that transition that far into that creepy,
he really leaned in, man.
Sick character. I mean, that's talent. That's acting talent.
Has there ever been anyone else that you've seen going from one type of character completely 360 degrees to another character like that and been so successful?
I think he's in first place.
I
I don't know who it would be, because most of us just aspire to be overblown, over-exaggerated a little bit versions of ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
And this was one of those things that if you put 5, okay, Dustin Rhodes is fired, he's going to be next, and you listed those 5, whatever they would be, that's going to be his character. You would have never chosen that one, I don't think.
Not at all. Absolutely not at all. Darren Staley says Dustin should have won an Oscar, quite frankly.
He's right. Good. Very good. You're right.
Yeah. Yeah. So there we go. Let's continue on with the card, because there's a few super chats, guys. If you throw them in the super chats, I'm making time for you at the end. So don't worry if I haven't gotten to yours yet. But I want to complete March 1995 here. Meng versus Jim Duggan, in a martial arts match. Jim Duggan, martial arts. What are we doing, Arn?
I think Jim needs a plank, a 2x4, and that's it. He is not Bruce Lee.
Plank. He is not Chuck Norris. As much as he might try to
ask him, he will tell you, no, I'm not. I'm the hey guy with the plank.
Right. And now, the tongue out.
Yeah, that's all he needs. And Haku, however, is probably a martial artist, beast, but all he needs is really just to grab you by the goozle, and that's all the martial arts he needs.
The old goozle and twist. And my goodness, speaking of Haku, this guy with his kids, his lineage is just becoming superstars right now in the WWE. Have you ever met Haku's or Meng's kids? We'll call them
probably when they were smaller and younger. I know that he's been in Japan for a while, right?
Yeah, the kids were, before they came over. They were all New Japan.
Yeah, they love them over there. Obviously, I've never seen an Island Boy that could not work.
Yeah,
every single one of them are great performers.
Yeah, they're studs, and it's just cool to see him do that. And then and then here's Yambag, since we're talking. So yes, I'm going to put it over because we're talking about it. Yambag on the super chat. You always got to start the day with a couple of good hoes. So there you go.
Well, Yambag, I trust and like a lot of your opinions. I can tell you, I've never sat up on the edge of the bed and did a hoe. That's just me. It's just me.
I quit, I think, after that. So there you go. This is just such a good show tonight. I've had so much fun. Darren Staley said ho-hos are a great chocolate pastry, though. So you have that too.
I know about ho-hos. Those are Hostess, aren't they?
I think ho-hos are their own separate line.
Hostess ho-hos.
Are they Hostess ho-hos?
Somebody do it. Yambag, Google it.
Darren, are ho-hos part of the Hostess line? Let's find out. So Meng versus Duggan. We got to get to the end of this card here. Meng wins when Sonny Ono tries to stop Duggan from hitting Colonel Parker, and the match gets mixed reviews. But again, this is Meng's first pay-per-view match, a martial arts match with Jim Duggan. We love our man Hacksaw, but this is the best they could come up with. So you have that. It is Hostess. Arn is correct. Arn is correct. Everybody in the chat, Arn is correct. Hostess ho-hos.
Was there ever a doubt?
Not when it comes to cake, that's for sure.
Pies and cakes. That's a subject to be discussed around this house occasionally.
Hey, ho-hos, ding-dongs, and Twinkies, baby. Oh, man, this is hilarious. All right, so...
You know what that was called, though, that match? That was a bad booking.
Totally.
Jim needs a guy, and needs a heel that can bounce all over the place for him and let him just walk around and do the thumbs up and the yo and all that stuff. He doesn't need... and Haku needs a guy that he can bounce around. So it's a bad booking.
Okay, good stuff. Let's talk about your match that night. And it's not for the television championship. You're in a boxing versus wrestler match. This is the culmination of the feud of you and Mark Marrow, who, by the way, I've said it before, I've been in touch with Mark, and we're going to have him on in the fall, just the three of us chit-chatting about you're working together. But Mark Marrow and you work this. Johnny B. Bad works as a boxer. The finish comes when at the 28-second mark in the 4th round, his manager, Finnegan, puts a bucket over your head. I don't know how big that bucket had to be. I love you. I'm kidding. And he punches the bucket with your head in, and then he hits you in the face with a left punch. When the bucket comes off, and that's how the match ends. How in the world do you put this kind of match together with Johnny B. Bad?
Well, you think outside of reality based, that's for sure. But the background was, if you tell the story, and I remember we did some stuff leading up to it to tell the story of him having his hands in gloves being a disadvantage because he can't grab.
Okay.
I'm the wrestler. I'm going to be able to grab him and jerk him around, and he's got the gloves on. He can't do the same. So we tried to tell the story and set it up that he actually would be at a disadvantage were it not for the fact that he was a legitimate Golden Gloves boxer. And so his ability to knock me out, pretty strong, pretty good percentage that's exactly what's going to happen. And it did. The bucket was my idea. We want to put a little ha-ha in there. And
first so time you were like, just put a bucket on my head.
Yeah. Hey, you can't hurt me. Yeah. I am what I am. Well, tomorrow morning they won't be going. Now about the guy looks at his wife and goes, now about that bucket on Arn's head, that's bullshit. That never happened.
Buckethead anyway? Didn't someone call you Buckethead, or am I thinking of somebody else?
You better be thinking of somebody else.
Okay, well, I'm going to shut up now.
Because I didn't know about that, and you don't want to bury somebody now that I'm old and cantankerous.
And I'm going to see you next weekend, so I don't need that left hook that Mark Marrow gave you hitting me. So no, I'm good.
I'm not a fighter.
You're a lover at this age.
No, I'm not. I was looking for that third thing that you can be.
No, you're not a fighter. You're not a fighter. You're not a lover, but you're an eater. No. And they're still talking about cupcakes, and they're still talking about ice cream. So.
I could be a food critic. I bet you.
You would be hilarious, an amazing food critic. I feel like we could do our own separate show on food, and you could be an awesome food critic or talk about how you make food.
So if you're out there, folks, we got some star power. We got some continuity already together, working together.
And we like to eat.
Give us 30 minutes and put us on a cook and eating show.
There you go.
We'll entertain you.
That's right. Oh my God, this is so good. All right, so we worked through that. It was a fun match. You came with the end, and we move on because now it's Randy Savage against Avalanche, and this is a continuation of the whole storyline that's going on at the time with Savage and Hogan and the Faces of Fear. It's really more of a storytelling device. Savage wins, and he defeats Avalanche via DQ at 11:30. When here's another highlight of this month. Ric Flair, dressed as a woman, jumps over the railing and double teams Savage. Moments later, Avalanche hits the sit-down splash on Savage before world champ Hulk Hogan comes out, scaring Flair and Avalanche to the floor. We have Ric Flair officially back, and he's in drag. He goes to the locker room. He cuts a scathing promo. He has eyeliner on. His nails are painted. And I have one question for you, Arn. Whose looks better in drag, Ronnie Garvin or Ric Flair?
Ronnie Garvin is one ugly chick, but you'll have to tell him because I'm afraid.
Hands of Stone could still knock you out.
I am afraid. Yeah, he's beat me up all over the East Coast back in the day.
Yeah.
Yeah, but he's an ugly chick.
Darren Staley just said, "Oh dear Lord," when I read that recap. That's the only 3 words he could come up with in the chat. That's real, guys. Flair's in drag, and he comes out, and this is how we're writing Uncensored. This is why we called it Uncut, Unsanctioned, and Uncensored. This is a pay-per-view that you're never going to want to go back and watch. But
it's not supposed to make. I just assume it's not supposed to make sense. And with Flair dressed as a chick, the first thing you say to yourself is, "Man, that chick got a big nose."
That's one hell of an ugly chick.
Well, as guys, when we assess, the beauty of a woman,
Sure.
or we look at a woman, if she's got a big shanker stuck between her eyes,
shanker,
doesn't matter what she looks like besides that.
I am a face guy for sure. I'm with you. You got to have a pretty face.
You can't unsee it, can you?
No. You think about that. What's that elderly lady that was on Mr. Rogers, that puppet, Lady Elaine? She always scared the shit out of me. And that thing had the big old crooked red nose with the. You ever watch Mr. Rogers back in the day?
Not for a minute.
Land of Make Believe?
Nothing.
From Pittsburgh. Yeah.
Zero.
Right. Okay. All right, good shit. Let's get to the final match, and then we'll get to some of these questions because, man, we're having way too much fun this week. Hulk Hogan versus Vader in a non-title, that's right, another non-title strap match. And they've been promising this whole night for the ultimate surprise because ARN, originally they were trying to figure out a way to get Ultimate Warrior there. That falls through. You know who the ultimate surprise ends up being?
Renegade.
The Renegade. That's exactly right. The Renegade. He makes his debut at the end of it. You get Flair in there. Vader comes in at the end. You actually make your way to the ring, and you're a part of the Gaga. But again, why would you have a pay-per-view on and there's no world title considerations when you think about Vader and Hogan in the main event? Obviously, neither one of them. There's this going on. Vader doesn't want to take a loss from Hogan. Hogan doesn't want to take a loss from Vader. And by the way, you know how they ended the match? Flair gets involved, and Hulk takes Flair around and taps all four corners. He's not even a part of the match, but that's how they ended.
That was the finish?
That was the finish.
Oh, I must have been knee deep in a Miller Lite when that happened.
You would have to be either that or you got knee deep after this match.
Oh, I'm sure afterwards I did. So they beat a guy that's not even in the match.
That's exactly right. It's an overbooked mess. Research guy he nailed it. I don't know if he's back. He was driving an ice cream truck a little bit earlier, I think they said in the chat. But overbooked mess.
Well, hold on. Hold on. So was it a no DQ?
Yeah, all these rules are out the window. So they just
you could have did any number of run-ins, but you can't beat the guy that ain't in the match.
That's right. It still doesn't make good booking.
There's no way to rationalize that and make it make any sense.
Not at all.
Creative control. That's the answer to that.
Yeah. So it is, though, you return and help out Flair. And this is now your return and pairing with Nature Boy. And now you and Nature Boy Vader, all heels. How about you working with Rick and Vader? Is this something that you just feel natural going back, kind of being Flair's sidekick again? You excited about because you're now away from Robert Parker, Colonel Parker, and that whole group, and now you're back to being with Flair.
Yeah, and God bless all those guys. They were great. Colonel Parker's crew, great performers, which I've said many times. Plus, I have friends with all those guys. Nothing but respect. I just didn't fit.
Yeah.
I fit with Rick. I think it's one of those things, that it just, I remember those guys. Okay, this could get good. And I just felt at home. Being Flair's protector, enforcer, sidekick was a badge of honor for me.
And that's how for a lot of our memories are. It's either you and Tully tag team or you with the Horsemen with Flair. And that was the natural fit to your point. So before we move on and kind of wrap up the pay-per-view, I got to ask you, the Renegade, did you ever have any interaction with him? Do you remember?
Well, yeah, I had one of the worst matches I've ever had in my life with him. Are you kidding me?
Tell me more.
Well, I mean, it was number one, when you find out that it was a stripped down warrior that he was supposed to be, but nobody did the research, and there would be a big lawsuit if you did it because it looked too much like when they did the stuff around the arms and all that and around the boots, and they just did like a silhouette of him, for just a second. You went, well, that's Ultimate Warrior, but it was too close.
Yeah.
and I think it got into the lawsuit stage. So you had to strip him down to just who he was. And he was not seasoned. He was a rookie. Basically he was I think he was well, what do you call it? He was a dancer in a club somewhere.
Okay, like a stripper.
Yeah, he's a stripper. Yeah. So that was his, experience. And so it was a flop.
And I'll throw it up here now because it's relevant to the conversation. Instagram, a wrestling historian, says we got the shitty finish because Hulk Hogan and Vader didn't want to lose to each other. True or false? You're absolutely true.
Correct.
That's absolutely correct. A wrestling historian, and then some of the research I did, I was looking up some of this today. Vader he's a champion over in Japan at this point as well. Hogan, obviously he's carrying the title, and neither one of them want to lose to each other. So. And then that's what back in those days, especially with all the creative control and the booking, and we can get into why did WCW have problems and struggles. Here's another example of shit like this. So, there you go.
Yeah, and here's the reality: you should build your pay-per-views around a world title match every time, and you should be getting opponents ready for the champion at all times. So when he beats, and you have a clean finish. Hogan wins with his finish. Now you move on to the next guy. But, there wasn't enough thought to, okay, who's going to be next? Who's after the pay-per-view in 2 months? Who we're going to get ready? And I think that was a big mistake, not building guys and getting them ready for your top guys on either side of the ball.
They said that Tony Schiavone and Bobby Heenan, if you guys go back and watch the pay-per-view, which I'm sure we've sold it now to everybody to want to go back and watch, but you can tell through their commentary, they're popping each other left and right with jokes, over-the-top commentary. And so it's sometimes just listening to them was just as entertaining kind of watching this show because they just let loose and had fun, as they called this hot mess pay-per-view.
Uncensored.
There you go. They were totally uncensored. Arm, before we get into closing remarks, talk about some other things. I want to get to some of our folks that had some questions, and some of it are not on topic for what we covered, but it's totally cool. This is what this is about. And Reggie the Tree said, hey, guys, 2 questions. In a shoot locker room fight, what team walks out, the Steiners or Doom? Just curious because I respect all 4. And who is the better worker, Dustin or Cody, and why? So let's start with the first one. Steiners, Doom, shoot fight. Who's your money on?
Ooh, I couldn't pick that one.
They both. I know.
Ron Simmons, is bad apple. Steiners, legit bad apples.
Butch Reed,
bad apple. More of a street fighter, I would think. That would be hard to pick. I don't think I could pick one.
That's tough. That's all of them outside of pro wrestling. You talk about the Steiners and their amateur background, and like you said, Ron Simmons just a badass. So there you go. What about Dustin or Cody, better worker? That's another hard one.
Yeah, and it's impossible to pick that too because they're different eras, different characters. Cody has done a real good job of making his life quest a big issue, and that's the story. And we talk about story all the time. His story for the past year is to win at WrestleMania and win the championship and do what his dad hasn't done. That's a story. That's what people tune in to see. Dustin, we've already went over the creativity that he had with Goldust, creating that character. And just being, when him and Steamboat were partners, they were a great team. Yeah. So sorry, I can't pick that one either. They're both toss-ups, both. Hey,
I want to give you great question.
It is.
Yeah, fantastic question. Darren Staley chimes in and says, compare and contrast Austin 95 WCW and Austin 96 WWE. What made the difference? Obviously, he became more of a roughneck style, the Texas rattlesnakes, style. But what say you, Arn, in the difference in him?
Well, something about shaving his head and growing that goatee. He became Stone Cold. He became just the difference in his appearance, I think, got the ball rolling. And I think he was given a lot more leeway to be who he was with WWF. You know, it was just one of those things. They let the character develop, and he got the gift of all gifts. He got an angle with Vince McMahon, and who in the world wouldn't like to kick the shit out of their boss and get away with it?
So true. Great point. Final super chat this week from Pasquale, and he says, Arn, what was your weight training regiment during your peak years? And did you just get your cardio done in the ring? Much respect.
Yeah, I worked my way into a routine because we didn't have hours to spend in the gym when we were traveling. In the Crockett days, you had about an hour and 15, hour and 30 minutes to devote to working out and lifting weights. And you had to do that because that was your armor. I just started training one body part a day and doing about 20 sets. And I backed it down from, I tried some powerlifting before I got in the business, and, didn't have a lot of success because I wasn't on the gas. And, but I got, relatively strong. But I found out wrestling and lumbards do not work well together. They started cramping up from doing the heavy squats I was doing at the time. So I changed it up and just did about, I'd go chest one day, shoulders the next, back and arms. Then I would do some legs, and I backed off the heavy squats and started doing just leg press and thigh extensions and some of that stuff. I never had the genetics or the body or the frame to have a great body. I just had enough, I guess, frame size to be big enough to compete with the guys of that era. And I'm not talking about the monsters, but some of the smaller guys.
Yeah, sure. Makes a lot of sense. Someone called you, and he BLCKTTT Alpha Stud, Arn Anderson. It's funny. I was going through the comments as we're about to wrap up, and somebody commented, where is it up here? Oh, Shy Man 99. Paul, you should be like Arn and be proud of his bald head. Don't hide it under a cap.
Wow. Who said I had a bald head?
I knew you were going to.
Did I steal your line?
No, I just wanted to read it to you for your reaction about the bald head. I see that hair.
I'm starting to lose my hair.
I see it though up there. And me, yes, bald head. This is corporate Paul Bromwell. This is podcast.
Look at that tan. Pull that hat off.
Oh, buddy.
Look at that tan head.
July 4th. I was out in the sun, but also more merch display right here. Come on.
Yeah. You know something, the difference in me and you, people have told me, why don't you just shave your hair? Shave your head, man. Because you got that perfect bean. I got knots and holes all in my head.
Holes.
Yes. Potholes, knots. I would not be a good candidate to shave my head.
Smoother than a baby's bottom, Bromwell, Yambag Jones. Buddy, it is. I just gave it a fresh shave.
That's a good head. That don't even look real. It looks
it looks like a mannequin. It's so stupid. But yeah, this is corporate Paul. This is corporate Paul Bromwell.
That's makeup.
Podcast host Paulie B. Let's have fun. You like that gimmick?
And I'm flabbergasted.
Selling the merch, buddy. We got these dad hats are now available because I don't look good in the flat brim look. I've tried that. It ain't a thing.
On the white one?
So yeah, like you have the white and black one. These are the flat brim match. Look at this, dude. I'm gonna display it right here for you guys. This is not work on me, man. What is this? This don't even look good.
Well, you gotta put the crease in the brim.
No,
you gotta curl it a little bit.
Flat bill ones, I think, like this, like you're, like Paul Wall or something. I was told by when I met what's his name, Little John. He was like, "You look like Paul Wall." No, I can't pull that look off. I need them form fitting because of this bean.
Well, don't get hot. Don't get hot.
these dad hats. And so, guys, these are available, by the way. Here I go. These are available right now. OneTrueSport.com.
It's good stuff. They do good work. The guys that do the hats.
Darren told me that I need to fold my hat and put it in my pocket for a while. Maybe sit on a little bit, get it nice and creased.
Get us used to that head.
Yeah, well, I don't know.
Nothing?
Listen, Paul has that tan that Sting should have, said Eddie Prather. So
what is that movie with where they had the shaved heads? It was the comedy with the
Eggheads.
No. They were from a cone head. That's it.
It was with oh, come on, I'm picturing his face. Dan Aykroyd.
Yeah, they had good heads.
Yeah, well, yeah, come on. They look like a freaking torpedo. So all right, we're having fun. You can tell we've had almost 300 people watching this whole time, and I think right now they're just watching because they don't know if the ice cream man's going to show up in your living room.
You didn't come back.
They have no idea what's about to happen here. This has been the best month review of your career that I think the most entertaining that I've ever done with you.
Yeah, I have made a fool out of myself this whole month, haven't I?
No. It's fantastic. This is why we love Ask ARN, though, because we have fun like this and go off the rails, and it's more fan interaction. Guys, put it in the comments. Did you enjoy this style of a monthly look back? Yes, we laughed. We had fun. Probably weren't as super serious of all the Meltzer said this and this and that. Did you guys have fun with this or not? I'll wait for your comments as we start to close it down. But we didn't really get into the comic books. And I know soon on One True Sport, we're going to have those hardcover web store exclusives. But you also, I know, got your hands on some soft covers that you're going to have with you at shows. So that's exciting.
Everywhere I'll be, I'll have a stack of them.
Okay.
Because I wanted to make it easy for folks that want to get them.
Yeah.
And everybody is not a, computer geek.
Sure.
To where they just know how to do that and order stuff. So we're going to make it easy on them.
There you go. So if you are having trouble finding them elsewhere, we're going to have the hard covers on the site. And if you get to go see ARN, he'll have those soft cover books. But man, this is an opportunity for you to grab a piece of ARN's history, his story, in such a fun way. And it's a great piece to have to grab an Arn Anderson autograph too, as well. I have my hardcover here.
Hold on.
I see you looking for yours. But here's the hardcover version of it, and it's just it's a masterpiece. And the only thing that comes close to, when you have artwork like Arn Anderson like that, and he's ripped and shredded, this is prior to him and the Ice Cream Man, really. And he can't hear me right now, so this is prior to the Chip Witches. This is prior to the Hershey Bar. He's shredded at this point.
Here we go. Now this is Woo Woo's company with his partner.
Woo.
And this is the collectible Bendies. I actually have a gimmick action figure. So these will be with me as well. Make it easier to get those. Appreciate those guys considering me for these. You
have another one coming out here in the future, don't you?
It's the big ones, whatever the big ones are. I got about 3 companies that I'm, Magnum's company.
That's what I'm talking about, the Magnum company.
Yeah.
Powertown.
Not to belittle anybody, but there's been some opportunities come my way I'm very grateful for. And there's going to be a big one, according to Zach, which are the new popular action figures. So I'm going to have one of those coming out too as well. I'm excited.
It's exciting. Let me talk about the video game, because guys, that I had did a special with Tully, and it's for Ultra Pro Wrestling from Hyper Focus Games. The gameplay that's inspired by a Nintendo 64 wrestling games. They've got the modern features. You guys, I'm sure, are following already on social media at UPW Video Game on Twitter, on Instagram. They have a Patreon, patreon.com/Ultra Pro Wrestling for their exclusive content. But Arn Anderson is going to be a free agent downloadable character. Jake the Snake, Magnum TA, and who just recently signed a contract to be a part of that video game? Tully Blanchard. You will now be able to download Arn and Tully and wrestle as the Brainbusters, as the Horsemen versus Demolition, and so many other tag teams in this video game. They're going to have a creation suite for arenas and wrestlers and championship belts. And it's going to be on the PS4, PS5, Xbox, PC, and Switch. And they're going to have a demo on Steam in the third quarter of this year. More details, ultraprowrestling.com. Hal Haney, our man. You guys know who Hal Haney is. He's done so many great drawings, did the artwork for all of these wrestlers. It's phenomenal. We're actually at some point going to be able, they've made some custom posters, going to be able to sell from our site some of the custom posters for our One True Sport guys. Fantastic video game. I can't wait to get my hands on it. Check it out, Arn. You guys are going to love it. I'm telling you. So again, check it all out. We have one more super chat I got to get to, and then I'm going to close up with our next recording date before we get out of here. And it's another one from Reggie the Tree, Darren Staley's favorite name, Reggie the Tree. I want to say I didn't grow up close with my dad, but very close with my papa. And we loved wrestling. And his favorite were the Andersons. So I grew up loving you, Arn. We a heel family. I want to thank you.
Thank you. And, you know, I find that once you're a kid, you really hate the Andersons, but as you get about college age and you start looking around with fresh eyes, became Anderson fans. So better late than never. And thank you for the nice comments.
Arn, this has been an absolute blast with you. We're going to do it again, July 23rd. Mark it on your calendars, Tuesday, 6 p.m. Eastern. Arn and I are getting back together, and you know what it is. Ask Arn anything and almost anything, as we say. Almost. And so we're going to have a fantastic time, and it's our favorite show to do, isn't it? When we get to really interact with the fans.
What makes me happy is seeing how it makes you happy, which transfers to our audience. So everybody's happy. And how was my breathing? Better today?
But I don't.
I want folks
I didn't even know
that are listening. Be honest, because it's going.
We'll let them put it in the chat, and I'm going to do one more gimmick. Let's hear it, guys. We've got 300 of you watching. And a lot of you are here on YouTube. But let's hear what you thought about Arn's breathing, because he really wants to know. But
it's important to me.
It is. Darren Staley, who is a comedian, says, I never even heard a word that he said. All I heard was breathing. He's such a jerk. CGRT said, Arn, honest to God, I didn't hear a thing at all. Guys are chiming. It sounded great. Shyman didn't notice it at all. I want to tell you, if you're not a member, join us at onetruesport.com, because that's where you're going to see behind the scene footage, just exclusive for our members, of Arn and his family at the Hall of Fame, because the next time we get together, that will have already occurred. And I cannot wait to hang out with you, Arn.
Ditto.
Yambag Jones says, Arn breathes like a man who doesn't wear white hats.
That's right.
Darren Staley said, I've listened to the Arn show since day one, and I've never even noticed. Instagram, a wrestling historian, said, Arn isn't sucking wind like he used to on previous episodes. So he's giving a very truthful.
So I'm doing better.
Bobby says, no breathing here. Love hearing Arn's take on the business. And Lil Pie said, I didn't hear you, Arn. So he didn't hear the breathing. So there you go, buddy.
Mission accomplished. And it will be continued in the future.
My buddy Charlie CG says, love you, Arn. So happy to be a part of this. We're so happy to have all of you here with us as we have operated on YouTube now live. This has been some of the most fun that I've ever had, Arn, doing this show with you.
It's great, man.
New lives. So we can't thank you all enough. This interaction has been fantastic. Don't forget, Ask Arn Live, Tuesday, July 23rd, 6 p.m. Eastern. Be here. We're going to have a great time. Yambag says the only breathing I heard was myself listening for that ice cream truck. On behalf of Arn Anderson, the enforcer, my buddy, my friend, this is Paul Bromwell, the hat-wearing host of the show. And we'll see you right back here next time for another edition of Arn